Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Brad Fair from High Performance Technologies, and today I'm going to show you how to add AI capabilities to your Tableau analytics practice without the hassle of migrating to Tableau Cloud or rebuilding metrics, and without sacrificing the governance you've already built. If you're like most organizations that we talk to, you want AI in your analytics, but maybe you're not sure it's worth recreating everything that you've already invested in. And the good news is that you don't have to. You want AI in your analytics? Of course you do. Seems like everyone does. Your users want to chat with their data. They want predictions. They want recommendations. They don't want to hunt through 47 different dashboards just to find one number. That doesn't seem too unreasonable to me. But there's a problem. Seems like every AI tool wants you to start over. They want you to rebuild your metrics in their system. They want you to recreate the governance that you've already got, but in their system. They want you to learn their way of doing things. And if you've spent a long time building what you've already got in Tableau, why would you want to do that all over again? So here's what they're asking you to do. Rebuilding the metrics, whatever calculated fields you might already have, whatever KPIs you've got, all the business logic, do it again. Recreate the governance, any row level security you've got, whatever permissions are there, data access controls, do that again too. They want you to basically learn a new system, it seems, new UI, new concepts, new workflows, starting from scratch. If you've been through this with some of these tools, then that might sound familiar. I don't think this is problem solving. I think the problems are already solved, and they're just asking you to type those solutions again somewhere else. But what if you didn't have to? What if you could add AI capabilities to Tableau without having to rebuild everything? That was the question that I had, and that's what I'm going to show you today with Anna from TextQL and Tableau's VDS API. Anna is an AI analyst agent built by TextQL. Think something like ChatGPT, but it can query your data where your data is already at. It can iterate through analyses, and it can create reports, among many other things. VDS is Tableau's Viz Data Service API. It lets you query your published data sources programmatically, the same data sources that your dashboards are already using. So if you put these two things together, you get AI-powered analytics on your existing Tableau investment. Here's how it works. It's pretty simple. You ask a question in natural language. Anna figures out how to answer it. It determines what authentication it needs, how to find the right data source. It constructs the query and sends that to the VDS API, in this case, to the VDS API, which handles the actual query against your published data sources. Anna gets the relevant data back from the VDS API and continues its analysis until you get your answer. Pretty straightforward. We use the same metrics, the calculations that are already defined in Tableau. We use the same governance, whatever row level security and permissions are there, all of it. We don't have to rebuild anything because we're using what's already there. You don't need a new semantic layer for AI in Tableau. You don't need a new metrics store. You already have what you need, which is Tableau. So I'm going to go through and demo this solution and show you how it works. So the first thing that we need to do is give Anna, the TextQL agent, connected. We need to get it connected to Tableau using a Tableau personal access token in this case, which we will store in Anna's secrets manager. And then we'll chat through some analytical questions and iterate on things. So I don't know if you've created a personal access token in Tableau before. It's a pretty straightforward thing to do. Just in the account settings page for my user, we're going to create a token. And I've already done this, but I wanted to show you what that process looks like. So we'll create a token for Anna webinar. And what you need to catch from this token is just the token name and the secret. Maybe also make a calendar invite that warns you if it's about to expire. And as I said, since I've already created a token like this before, I'm just going to revoke it. And in order to, you would copy this yourself. In order to get that put into the TextQL agent the way that we need, I think it's best if we format it in a specific way. So I wanted to show you what this format looks like, at least the way that I've chosen to do this. You're certainly welcome to choose your own. We put the server name in, and then the token name and token secret. You see the instructions down below. This we will copy into Anna's secrets page as well, just to give Anna a little heads up on how to use this, because otherwise, it doesn't know what the secret looks like until it explores the secret, which might risk exposing the actual protected information to the chat. So I just clicked over into Anna's secrets management, and you can see where I've already got the personal access token from before. But I'm going to show you what it's like to just add that secret. It is pretty straightforward. You'll notice I copied the whole thing from the previous page. So I'm just going to paste that in here and up to the top and cut the actual secret out using Command X, and then clear those blank lines up top. And I'm just going to paste the secret into the value here. And to show you what that looks like, we took it from multiple lines, but it was all consolidated into one line here. So this is what that would look like. This is what Anna would see when it queries for the secret. And we're actually going to name this, in this case, Tableau_PAT. It doesn't have to be all uppercase. That's kind of a convention when it comes to secrets. So it's one that I follow. And you see here what remains in the description box is the set of instructions describing how to use this secret. So what the format looks like, a usage example, and so on. Everything that was on the previous page. You also have the ability to type in helpful documentation links. So I could put a link to Tableau's REST API here. And Anna, with this context, could decide to go search the REST API to understand how to use this secret. You can choose to make this a personal secret, or unselect this box and make it a secret that others in the organization can access as well. Since I've already done this work, I'm clicking cancel instead of create, because we have that personal access token here. As I said, the getting started part is just getting Anna connected to Tableau using a personal access token. That work is done. So let's go chat with Anna and see what happens. So I'm coming in here to this Anna chat interface. It looks familiar, probably if you've used ChatGPT or Claude or other similar tools. We just have an input box where I can send a message. And so I'm going to ask it to connect to Tableau Server and show me the sales over time. Connect to my Tableau server. I'm even going to specify using the VDS API just to give it a little head start, and show me the sales over time for the customer named Tom Miller. Before I click send, let me talk through a little bit of what this is going to do. So Anna is capable of creating and executing Python code, as well as directly connecting to certain databases and BI tools. What we're doing here is just allowing Anna to use the VDS API through its Python code. So it will actually have to write Python to connect. It does have the ability to do web search. It does have the ability to create interactive dashboards, but I'm not connecting it to any special connector in this case. We're just depending on the API, which could maybe come back to bite me because the VDS API is new. Tableau's REST API, not so much. That's been around for a while. So the large LLMs that we use very likely have training data on that and know how to use the REST API. But the VDS API is new enough that there's just not much data out there that it could have been trained on. So we've given it info on how to authenticate. We've given it a personal access token. What we have not given it is any context on how to use the VDS API. So that might be one potential issue. There is another one that I threw in there on purpose, which is we don't actually have a customer named Tom Miller in our data set. We have a customer named Thomas Miller, which is the one that I intend for it to find. But I wanted to show that in natural language, we have little issues like this that could become showstoppers. And let's see if Anna can address it. Let's see how Anna can address that. So I'm just going to click this, we'll send this message, and let's see how Anna responds. So the first thing is it wants to connect to the Tableau VDS API. It was able to connect with the secret, so we see that worked. Then, whoa, it got that wrong. It's trying to build a GraphQL query from what it looks like. And let's look at this Python cell here. So querying the VDS API for sales data, and then it sets up VDS headers, cool. Wants to list the data sources, and it definitely ran into a problem with listing the data sources. So this, I think, boils down to that, like, it's not been trained on the VDS API. I didn't give it any extra info on how to use that. And in all fairness, even a human analyst would run into problems if they were asked to use an API that they weren't trained on. So the context is important. You know, a human analyst would need to have context on how to use that API. So I have exactly that kind of context, kind of preloaded and waiting. I say kind of because I had it disabled. You can see that it's inactive here. But we can activate this context. That way that Anna in every chat has access to the info, like a cheat sheet about how to use the VDS API. You can see that this is a lot of text. The size of that scroll bar is pretty small. But I thought it would be better if I showed what it looks like collapsed so that you can see what kind of cheat sheet we are giving Anna for this demo. So on this, we've given it some instructions on when to use the VDS API. So use it when you need to query data from a published Tableau data source. If you want to use that data outside of Tableau, like in a separate execution environment, the way that Anna does. And when your query must respect Tableau's data source logic. So this is the big benefit, right? It's going to use the exact same data source the dashboards use. We've also given it info on how to authenticate, and that includes a code sample. So here's how the Python execution environment with Anna consumes those secrets. That way we're not exposing the actual secrets value to the LLM at all, and it's still able to use that. So with this authentication code, it can log in. Honestly, it's the same authentication example that we put in the secret context. Then we're detailing a standard workflow for using the VDS API, which I think makes sense as any reasonable analytical workflow. First, we authenticate, log in, get what we need to get to interact with the objects on Tableau. Second, we'll list the data sources, find them by name or whatever other filter we might need. Then read the metadata of that data source. We, as analysts, will explore a data source if we've never seen it before. That's how we learn to ask it the right kinds of questions. So Anna does the same thing. Then query that data, and finally do something with it, analyze it in Python. Given it info about the API operations for listing the data sources. This, for what it's worth, is actually using the Tableau REST API. Take note, I don't know how many of you are using certified data sources in your Tableau environment, but I did put in the instruction here to prefer certified data sources when they're available. And when there's ambiguity, ask the user. I imagine that your Tableau environment probably has a lot of data sources that might answer a generic sales question. So if there's ambiguity, Anna should be able to find all of the potential data sources and then ask which one's really relevant. For reading the metadata and the data model, we've given it some code examples on how to do that. And then for querying the data, it returns a data frame with the query results. And we've specified these different functions that can be used. So there's obviously a lot more that can be done, and you're certainly welcome to read these notes. After we're done with the webinar, you will automatically be redirected to a page that links you to this context. So you'll be able to download that and use it yourself if you decide you'd like to try it. You'll also be able to double check that I haven't added any cheat codes into the document to make the demo go more smoothly. It's just the cheat sheet. Anna figures the rest out on its own. So I'm going back to the settings, and everything that I was showing there is just in markdown format here. I'm going to activate this context now, clicking this little play button, and go back to the chat, scroll up, and I'm going to copy this to a new chat. Let's give it a good start. Connect to my Tableau server using the VDS API and show me the sales over time for the customer named Tom Miller. Now with the extra context, let's see how Anna approaches it. I will connect, search for Tom Miller. It's going ahead with the authentication just in this first cell, and it's successfully authenticated. Now it's using the code from the context, and it found several data sources here, including this certified Contoso online sales data source. And that's the one that it's going to use. That online sales data source is just a fact table connected to a handful of dimension tables, probably the same kinds of things you'd see in your own Tableau environments. And then it explored the metadata of the data source, and it found that there are some relevant field names that it might need to use, first name and last name. There are also first name and last name of employees in that data set, salespeople. It excluded those because it did see them in context, but it excluded those because it showed that they were related to the salespeople instead of the customers. Now it says it found several Miller names, with Thomas Miller being a close match to Tom Miller. So it was able to pull that into context and realize that I asked for Tom, probably wanted Thomas. I think if there were some ambiguities within the data set there, it ideally would prompt and ask me to confirm what it was I was looking for. But once it has the data, it's able to query for, let's say once it has the name, now it can query for the data using that name as a filter. So let me expand this and show you what that looked like. So here it's still searching for Tom Miller, and it used Python's fuzzy matching There's a library that could be used for fuzzy matching. And it found some relevant Millers, and Thomas Miller was included in that set. It said using Dalton Miller here, but it didn't end up using Dalton Miller. It did decide on Thomas Miller. And then it retrieved the 117 sales records for Thomas Miller by taking the relevant information and just selecting from VDS API what fields it needed. So this seems quite similar to how Tableau would do it as well. Just a quick note, when it queries for data from a data source or an API, it does not pull all of that data into the LLM context. It doesn't need to. It doesn't pull anything extra into the context outside of the Python code and the output that it presents. So you can see it sampling for some data here just so that it gets an understanding of what the shape looks like, so that it can then use it to create visualizations or perform further analyses. So it did create this visualization here using Python code, some matplotlib. And of course, we could give it different guidance on color schemes or pre-made snippets to use. And it pulled all of the relevant info together and then built this summary table. So we have this 71,000 in sales across 117 transactions. We've got a nice chart that shows this, all using the VDS API directly, just by programming the APIs. And Tableau is not the only thing you can use this with. I do this with other tools in my own analytical use cases. So I have this connected to my own accounting and bookkeeping system, my AWS environment. I've given it access to the billing details from there, so it can make suggestions on how I can reduce my AWS spend, which is pretty awesome. I have it connected to CRM. As long as you give Anna a cheat sheet or use APIs that are pretty prominent in its training data, it's capable of navigating through the APIs. Another cool thing I like to do is mix multiple data sources together. So I can show an example of that. For instance, we have already seen it connect to the Contoso online sales data source that we have. Maybe I wanted to compare that with some quota info that I've got. So I can attach a file and just have it use that in context. And I'm going to add this sales targets data source that I've got. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. It's not terribly difficult at all. I'm going to ask it using the Tableau Contoso online sales data source. Show me how my online stores are tracking towards their targets. The targets are included in the spreadsheet, the actual online sales data in the VDS API. So it's going to have to figure out how to bring those two together. And because it's working in its own execution environment, it can do that. Here's what the CSV looks like for the sales targets, by the way. Pretty straightforward. Let's see how it's behaving. So the very first part, authenticate to Tableau Server. That worked out well, just like last time. The second aspect, find the data source so that it can get this LUID. That ID is how we query it from the VDS API. If we had a data source that was really prominent, we wanted that one to just like be the default, for instance, we could put that ID in the context alongside the cheat sheet. That way, it wouldn't have to go search for the data source. But I do think it's powerful to be able to go search for the data sources when it needs to. It was able to find that data source, query the actual sales data by store name and calendar year. This is the same as the other chat, all things considered. It's just using different fields for aggregation. And because it's working in a single execution environment, it's able to merge the data frame that contains the CSV file with the results data frame from the VDS API. And it created this comprehensive visualization showing the performance. I've toggled this reports mode. I'd like for it to build a report for me. So the summary comes out and shows we've got total 3-year performance at 102.6% of target, exceeding the targets by 68.2 million. We've got performance by store, some key insights here. This is the kind of analysis that you might like to have sent to your email on, I don't know, some recurring basis, weekly. So we've got these suggestions that we can use here, and you'll see one of them says create an automated playbook. So I'm going to click that so that we can talk about playbooks and show you what those look like. A playbook is effectively a way to schedule a prompt to run on some recurring basis, build a report with the results, and send that out to some number of recipients. You can send it out through Slack integration. I've got Anna connected to Slack for my own use cases. I don't have this demo environment connected to Slack. You can also have it send out over email, which I do have. So that's what we'll have it do. It's created this playbook all on its own. And it's going to deliver that over email to my email address, since we're not connected to Slack. So let's go look at the playbooks. I'm clicking playbooks on the left-hand nav menu, and we see the one that was just created. And we can go look at that. We can go customize that. So we have we have the prompt, and Anna was able to write its own prompt in this case, giving it extra guidance from having just been through that workflow. Down below the prompt, we've got the ability to select which tools it can use. And we don't need it to do a web search. We don't need it to build a dashboard for us. We can also select which data sets are attached. That we will need. We will need to have that targets CSV in context when it runs. So I've just attached that targets CSV. And up at the top, we can change the schedule if we want. I might like 8 a.m. instead on Mondays. And we can add subscribers. And this would be similar to Tableau in that if you want to add subscribers, they do have to be in the system. And we can save email recipients. And you'll notice the report already looks branded in this like washed out preview. So you do have the ability to customize what that report looks like. And this customization will be there in the email. And I've done that in advance of this. So I'll run this playbook, and we'll see it get started. And then I'm going to switch back to the slide deck and wrap up while we wait for the email to show up. So you can see the status of the playbook running just above the preview, where step 1 was starting playbook, step 2, authenticating to Tableau Server, step 3, searching for the right data source. These are all the same steps that it went through in the chat that we did. And it might look familiar because it is familiar. It actually is running in a thread of its own. We have this open thread link up at the top that can take us to that, and we can see everything that's going on exactly as it's happening, as it prepares to send that, build that report and send it out via email. So we're just going to let it just continue running through that. Well, I hop back over to the slides and point out that we were able to get Anna connected to Tableau and use it without having to migrate anything to anywhere else. You didn't see me set up a new data warehouse or redefine metrics. The data stayed in Tableau where it already was, where it was already governed. You didn't see me duplicate calculated fields or recreate schema. I didn't need to. I was able to query the VDS API and understand how things came together there, just by nature of being an analytical agent. And the idea is that this is the real win. You can give your domain experts an interface like Anna, your salespeople, your ops people, your finance team, the ones that know the business. Maybe they just don't want to write SQL or build dashboards in Tableau. So now they can just ask a question. Show me the sales for Tom Miller. And that's it. That's the whole interface. So if you want to get started with TextQL, you can explore it on your own, signing up at textql.com. We'll have a link to the pricing page in our follow-up, the redirection web page that will pop up after the webinar. And you can explore and learn the patterns yourself. You can set the context up the same way that I did, create your environment secrets, create your playbooks. It is great if you have the time and desire to experiment, or you can use our Quick Start service, where we will set this all up for you in about a week using your data, using the relevant context for your environment. We'll teach your admins and analysts how to set these things up so that they have the best chance for success. We'll help you do it in workshop style training. And then we'll train your end users as well on how to properly use the tool, how to phrase questions correctly, the kinds of things that they can ask to become more efficient, things to be on the lookout for. So if you want to skip the learning curve and see value faster, that's the Quick Start. So this is the thank you slide that popped up, and I do want to thank you for joining. I really appreciate you being here. If you have questions, you should see a Q&A tab. You may have to click in the webinar interface to be able to ask your questions. I'm happy to answer any questions that we can answer, and you're certainly welcome to reach out. You can go to this go.highperformance.tech/Anna and Tableau. And that will give you direct access to the resources that I talked about in the webinar, as well as the ability to download that context that I promised. And let's see what the Anna email comes back looking like. It is here. So this is, I just got it a minute ago. I better share it. Share Contoso online store. Here we go. This is what that Anna email looks like from the playbook. It is effectively branded just as shown in that preview. It shows the executive summary, shows the store performance rankings, critical insights down below, strategic recommendations. I'm going to pause on that for a second if you'd like to read those. And then you do have a link to view the thread in the TextQL interface, as well as the relevant attachments that Anna decided to include in this email. So I'm just having a look real quick on the questions. We have one asking about site information, project information. And Tony answered saying that we can seed the site information and project information into secrets info, into context, whatever that might take. Someone asks, does this integration support connected apps and user impersonation? It absolutely does. I ran through this workflow yesterday, actually. So I was able to configure a secret for connected apps that did not contain a personal access token and use the context of the user that was already logged into Anna to log in with connected apps. So that's an excellent approach to ensuring that when a user logs in and asks a question, the answer is in their context, from their point of view, not from the point of view of whoever set up that personal access token. And then someone else asks, do you know how many API calls your prompt made to Tableau? I don't. That's a good question. I know that it made somewhere around 9 or 10 total Python calls, individual Python cells, but those could have contained more than one API call. So I will count those. It will probably take a bit to count, maybe be a little boring for a webinar, but I will count those and add those to the blog post I have on this subject of how many API calls it makes. That's an excellent question. I will count these calls and add it to my blog post and then I'll grab a link and add that. I'll add that into the answer so that you can click on it. There we go. All right. Well, if there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer it. And feel free to reach out. Again, I want to thank you for joining the webinar and hope that we can talk more about this if we run into one another. Take care.